We turn now to the road toll. Much discussion of it this week. 297 lives lost so far this year, 14 dead in the past week. If one of those numbers was a name and a face to you, you'll know the pain of that. But what about the people who attend those accidents, who study them in forensic detail? What do those people, experts, want to tell us about how we can all be safer on our roads? I asked them, and in part I did it whilst travelling beside one of them on the highest risk road in New Zealand.
Right, so this vehicle is doing 66 in a 50k area, and we're well inside the urban area, and we just passed two little kids on their push bikes, so I need to have a chat to this person.
A chat, more chat later, including with the driver.
Hi ma'am, hi, the reason I stopped you is it's a 50k area that you're doing 66.
I'm so sorry.
We're in Pairata, just outside Pukekohe, 50k south of Auckland. But it's the road behind us we've come to drive, so let's back up. State Highway 22, total length just 12.7k. And our tour guide is Pukekohe-based section supervisor, Sergeant Wayne Paxton.
So we're just turning off at Drury, and we're going to head south down State Highway 22. Now, State Highway 22 between Drury and Pukekohe was, according to the AA, the worst road in the country for fatal crashes, which is a little bit sobering when it's my area and another sergeant I work with. This is our responsibility, so it's not a nice fact to have floating around us.
More people have died on other roads, but what the AA identified were risk factors. And if you're listening in other parts of the country, you will know the type of road. Just outside a city, a rural landscape, trees, narrow shoulders in places, but with high traffic volumes and a mixture of confident locals and visitors who are more familiar with urban environments and who see the open spaces and think, yippee, and put their foot down. The radar in our unmarked police car is singing like a kettle. Have you attended serious crashes out here?
Right here, as we're passing through, not that long, I think it was last year, a member of the public was dropped off on the side of the road to walk across to the glass houses there and was struck by a car and died instantly.
This is Sergeant Wayne Paxton's patch. He knows it forensically. A kind of topography of death.
There's a few more sites, especially one coming up around the corner on our right-hand side, where probably the worst event that I've ever been to, where 5 young people were coming back from Auckland late at night. The driver was either texting or talking on his phone, and as he's come around the corner at very excessive speeds, he's lost control, and the car's basically launched and hit the pine trees up on the right-hand side, which I'll show you shortly.
He remembers them all, the details, the names, the places, because when you arrive at the scene, when you see it, when you cover the bodies, when you have to tell the families, a mum, a dad, you do remember that. He can still picture it.
So halfway up this row of pine trees is where the car connected, and then it's come to land and caught a light. So 4 people passed away in flames in that vehicle, and the other one was spat out the back window.
I always thought cops would somehow know how to deal with that stuff. And they do, but sometimes only just. Back at Counties Manukau HQ, I talked to Constable Chris Peat, who's a full-time crash analyst.
So I analyse all the fatal and serious crashes that happen within the Counties of Manukau district.
Yes, that's it. Chris Peat's professional life is fatal and serious crashes. And you've got your phone on the chair beside us because you're on call?
Yes, I'm on call, so if anything happens within the Counties of Manukau district, and that includes the motorways in our area as well, I'll be the one that'll have to attend them and deal with it.
And it may be something truly horrific.
Yes.
If you ever feel indestructible as a driver, Chris Peat can tell you you're not. On Monday morning, he was holding that phone when, in Otara, 15-year-old Morocco Thai drove a stolen car into a tree.
I'd actually only taken over the on-call for 5 minutes at 6 o'clock in the morning when I got called to it. So I'd just literally taken over to be the on-call member and received the call to attend it.
And you get there and there's a 15-year-old boy who's dead.
Yes. I suppose that's one of the worst parts when you go to these crashes and you actually look at them. My daughter's 15.
Chris Pete's had 22 years of seeing how people die in their cars.
The first fatal I dealt with was back in 1995.
And so I ask him what the most frequent causes are. What is the single factor most likely to have gone wrong?
The person driving the car.
Now, obviously some crashes truly are blameless. And in others, the victim wasn't the cause. Another car was responsible, or a pedestrian a driver had swerved to avoid. But more than any other single factor, a man who analyses serious and fatal crashes for a living can tell you it's the person behind the wheel most likely to be at fault.
So driver error.
Okay, going towards your HTF.
What's your name?
My name's Andrew.
If he hadn't been so overwhelmed by the impertinence of my question, he would have told me the rest.
My name's Andrew Iton and I'm a constable at Pukekohe.
And so what are you doing here?
We're just looking after the roads, really. We're making sure that they're nice and safe. People are, driving like they should be, obeying the road rules, got their seatbelts on.
Andrew was working a lunchtime checkpoint in Pukekohe. Seatbelts, yes, people are still not wearing them. Cell phones, yes, people are still using them in cars.
We'd go through a day shift and, might see 20 or 30 at least just from one car, from one patrol car, and then there's people are on them all the time. Then you're off duty, you see them all the time.
And if you ask Andrew, Wayne, Chris, people who watch our driving, they'd say, put your phones down, put your seatbelts on. Be considerate. If you're not overtaking, get out of the overtaking lane. And if you're going too fast, slow down, and not only when you see the cop car you're about to overtake.
Just pick it up here. So coming up behind us now is someone who's just realised that we're police officers, so they've slowed right down. They got up to 98 then. So she's just realised that who she was passing. So 98k she was up to behind us.
In an 80k zone.
In an 80k zone, yep.
And to her credit, as she passed us, she did have the good grace to look seriously sprung. Which brings us back to where we started.
Right, so this vehicle is doing 66 in a 50k area.
We pull over, she pulls over. And what follows is sort of unexpectedly civilised.
Hi ma'am, hi, the reason I stopped you is it's a 50k area that you're doing 66.
I'm so sorry. I was on a work call on my hands-free.
Okay, it's obviously with the road toll increasing at the moment, and just there's little kids that were walking just up the road just up from you. So.
It's the kids that make her understand. They were little, and on two-wheelers they looked in uncertain control of, and she's a local.
I'm embarrassed, and I've probably just had a kick in the bum, and I think, what I was saying to the policeman here was, I think they do an amazing job. It was completely my fault, and I think sometimes as drivers we get complacent, especially in our local area.
But this is also where policing and public opinion do clash. It's the issuing of tickets. Was Sergeant Paxton making the road safer or raising revenue?
This job is not about revenue gathering. It's far from it. It's from when I've been in the job, it's never been about revenue gathering. It is honestly about trying to reduce the death and serious injuries on our road. That's all it's ever been.
Of course, the police would say that, and some people still need persuading of it. So I return to it as we drive. Are you on commission? Like, do you get $20 for every ticket you issue?
No. I wish I'd get a brand new toaster sometimes. It's not about commission, and it's not about revenue gathering, and it's not about goals and things. It's about reducing deaths and serious harm on our road. That's why I come to work. I love my job, and I want to make a difference.
A difference? How do you make it? How can we be persuaded to drive better, more considerately, more safely? Remember Chris Pete, of a man who's spent his professional life studying how we die on the roads, describes the most common cause as...
the person driving the car.
What do we do to make us buckle up, or put the phone down, or slow down, or get out of the way when we're going slow? Answer that and the road toll will plummet. In the meantime, the police will issue tickets, and when they drive, they'll remember every accident they ever attended where things went very badly wrong.
This next corner here So right here was a motorbike coming north. He's lost control right on this corner and gone straight into the front of a people mover with 5 people in that vehicle. Now that vehicle also caught alight. Motorcycle rider died instantly, and the passengers in that vehicle were ripped out by members of the public while the vehicle was still afire.
Wayne remembers them all. We head off 22 and along quieter roads towards King's Seat, onto the main road. A ute comes over the hill. The siren barely goes on and the guy pulls over. Fair cop.
So this vehicle here, 117 coming towards us on King's Seat Road, which his speed was increasing at that time too. So I've actually locked him at 117, but his speed was increasing. So we'll have a chat to him.
Another chat. Those chats are probably best avoided, but Wayne Paxton and Chris Pete back at HQ waiting to analyse the next serious crash. Just wish people could know what they know, what they've seen, without losing a loved one to learn it.
You're driving a car at 50, your body's moving at 50. If you're driving a car at 100, your body's moving at 100. And for a person's body to go from 100 to 0 in a couple of seconds is not good for it.
Chris Pete.